Thanks everybody for joining today's meetup. My name is James Doleful. I am the Director of Technology here at Showa Boston Institute in Jamaica Plain, Massachusetts. I am part of a group of the Higher Ed Meetup Group. This group has been around for many years, founded by Mr. Nuno himself for the whole sheer purpose. Wave, Nuno, wave your hands.
I can't take credit for that. It was you and I, James. You and I were the two originals.
Yeah, we are. But the whole sort of purpose here is to try to give back to the community, both in knowledge, in experience, and perhaps even wisdom. Today's event is based on what I would say, if limited resources, limited money, limited staff, how do you get things done, especially when it needed to be done yesterday? As part of the panel, we have Frank and Ray, and I'm going to let Frank introduce himself and what college he represents, and then followed by Ray. And then after which, I'll have Tom do the typical, what I would say, housekeeping rules.
Sounds good.
Go ahead, Frank.
Thanks, James. So my name is Frank Hughes Jr. I'm the CIO here at Cape Cod Community College. I've been here for coming up on 3 years now. This is my third college stop, previously being a director of client services at Massasoit and the manager of classroom technology at Curry College years ago. It's interesting, my professional career has had stops at these smaller schools, but also large corporations. I've worked at State Street Corp for over 10 years and British Telecom as well. So going from massive IT departments that sort of global interest to a school that really, you cross that bridge on the Bourne of the Sagamore Bridge, that's where we are. That's all we support. It's humbling, but also full of its own challenges.
Thank you, Frank. How about you, Ray?
Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ray Lefebvre. I'm currently the Chief Information Officer at the New England College of Optometry. The New England College of Optometry is a small postgraduate optometry school with 500 students and 250 faculty and staff, all combined, in a very small campus in the Back Bay of Boston. I have just been here for 2 short months. I spent 6.5 years at UMass Boston as the Vice Chancellor of IT and Chief Information Officer, supporting 16,000 students, as you were saying, Frank, and 2,500 faculty and staff, a much bigger operation. And before that, I was a CIO at Bridgewater State University for 7 years as well. So I come from a public higher ed environment, and now I'm in a small nonprofit. And so I do have, in the 2 short months I've been here, I have some lessons learned of adapting and scaling leadership and technology support from a large organization like you, Frank, to a smaller organization. And there are tricks to the trade for sure that we'd like to share today. So that's a little bit about me.
All right. And as James mentioned, I'm here to talk a little bit of shop about how we do this here. So our conversations are fairly casual, but if you'd like to interject, if you'd like to get into the discussion, you can obviously leave a question in chat, which I will be monitoring. You can You can also raise your hand using one of the built-in features within Zoom. And if you're really brave, you can just unmute your mic, turn on your camera, and jump in when you feel appropriate. But I do ask that folks let us do one round of questions for the panelists before we open it up to Q&A. So if you have a question right now, feel free to leave it in the chat. And then once we go into the Q&A, we can just bring everybody into the fold and have a nice casual conversation.
Thank you, Tom. And again, this will be recorded. So this way, you can go back and review whatever that may have piqued your interest before. And by all means,
absolutely,
if you find this group very informative and very helpful, please, by all means, let your colleagues know about us. What we're looking to do is obviously have more meetups with more interesting topics. So if you have a topic you'd love to hear about, please, drop it in the chat. With that said, certainly. I think I have 2 questions. I'm going to start, though, with Frank first. My question to you, Frank, is, and I had to write these down because God knows I wouldn't remember all of them. But my question is, with increased attendance due to the free community college, how do you manage that increase of demand, both from either software, hardware, or even personnel support?
Sure. So thanks for the question, James. When I started here, we were just coming out of COVID, and things were grim. We were always trying to struggle to get the numbers from the previous year, previous semester. And then free community college started to pop up. First, it was Mass Educate, which was 25 and older, or that I might be getting my laws confused. But then this year was, or last year was everyone 18 and older. So we saw increase in enrollment from when I started to now of over almost 1,200 people. My budget didn't increase by that same percentage. So we are about 33 to 40% higher enrollment here at Four Cs than we were when I started. My budget remained flat. I did manage to get a few extra dollars here or there for computer refreshes, but that's just the basic. Computers increase in price. You have to buy new computers. You have to take care of these things. But what we saw was after COVID, coming into COVID, we had a laptop loaner program that the students were now relying on, and the faculty and the staff were promoting. So I couldn't keep buying brand new laptops as I refreshed the old ones. So one of the solutions that we found, thanks to my deputy CIO, who did a lot of work looking for this, we started purchasing refurbished laptops from a company out in Texas. It saved us maybe half the cost per laptop. We were spending under $400 for i7 laptops that we could then turn around and give to our student population that were warranted and treated just like it was brand new. They just happened to be a couple years old. So some things like that we didn't quite budget for, but we could at least save in these unexpected costs. Other things we did were we invested wisely in our high flex option. So I know a lot of schools have high flex, they might call it a different thing. At Four Cs, high flex means you can come to school one day or stay home and then stay home the next. There's no requirement to be on campus at any time, but you have the option to be on campus if you want to. If I'm sick today, I can stay home and then go to class the rest of the semester, and I can just log into a Zoom meeting. So we had to find ways to have Zoom HyFlex classrooms. And rather than spending what some vendors wanted, over $100,000 for a room with a camera in the front, a camera in the back, and a speaker system, especially with a small school like ours, where our classrooms might be 24 students max. We invested in this technology from a company called D10. And if anyone's ever seen a D10 monitor, they're about 75 inches. They have a sound camera, speaker bar on top, and they're basically a Zoom board. I tap it, I join my Zoom meeting, and I'm off. I don't even need a Zoom license myself. I can use this for my adjuncts. I can use this for my full-time staff. I can use this for staff meetings. And it allows me to have a meeting, to share a whiteboard with who's there in front of the class and for whom might be home. And what we found was these Zoom boards, these D10s, cost about $11,000. Includes stand, includes warranty for 3 years, and includes the device and the Zoom license. So we were able to not only refurbish a classroom for a third to a half of what a typical classroom would have cost. A podium, a computer, a projector in the ceiling, speakers in the ceiling. We're finding that my faculty prefer these D10s. Matter of fact, when I take them out of classrooms, they get mad at me. They say, we want our D10 back. So I'm always buying more. I have 58 D10s on my 4 campuses at the college, between the Barnstable campus, our Hyannis, our Plymouth, and our Bridgewater campuses. They are easy to use, functionally very flexible. And if one goes down in 3 years, I can replace that one. And basically, I can replace 3 of them in the time it would take for one classroom to fail me. And I have to replace a classroom. So they're also very cost efficient. And then other things we looked at were the software, the day-to-day software that we were using. So I had a software for my help desk called Black Belt Help that also included a help desk option. If my calls rolled over to, if my help desk was occupied, these calls would bounce to a call center. The call center would just pick up the call and create a ticket. Well, what I was finding was it was inefficient, and people didn't like having to wait for the call center. I was finding that it was costly to manage a call center off campus, and they just couldn't do what we wanted. So we just looked at a different option. What I was able to do for half the price of this call center ticketing system was I invested in a software called Freshworks for my ticketing system. Well, at the same time, I was able to hire a part-time staff member to fill in the blanks for things that my off-hour support was covering, because I found out that off hours was basically Saturday morning. But I had 24-hour support. Nobody was calling me at 2 a.m. on a Thursday. So these little things that we did, we looked at, different options of purchasing. We looked at different setup for classrooms, and we looked at our software that we're holding. We found different ways to save money. And just one more I want to share, actually two, if I have time. We also found that using grants was a great help. Grants do lock us into what that grant money is supposed to be for, but we had a grant, the school had a grant to put Wi-Fi on one of our remote parking lots for the community. If somebody, if say NSTAR or Verizon or Comcast needed it during a snow emergency, they could park there and pick up our guest Wi-Fi. But to do that, I needed to increase my infrastructure first. So the grant paid for my infrastructure upgrade that I could push then out to my lot. So although the grant was taken care of, I also got something that the college needed as well. And then the last thing really quick was the community college network works together, the 15 community colleges. We meet monthly, and we talk about the endeavors and the things that we're doing. And if they overlap, what we try to do is use each other's buying power. So if 4 or 5 or 10 schools want the same thing, we try to work it with the vendors to say, it's not just me buying it, it's 9 other schools. What kind of discount is available for something of that nature? So we're always trying to find a deal. Some things we can't avoid. Microsoft licenses is the Microsoft license, but some things where we can save a few bucks, we're definitely looking for that, as long as it doesn't impact the student.
That's a lot, but that also seems like it made your year kind of very, I don't know, stressful, trying to find out how you're going to support an additional 30% of students. My God.
It's been fun.
Yeah, my God. Well, that's interesting, because that's an interesting spin then for you, Ray, because I have a question for you. Where you went from, this big institution, especially when you're at Bridgewater University, now you're down to this small, niche college. How do you address the cybersecurity, especially if, you don't have a huge, budget of say $1 million? So.
Well, that's a great question, Jim. And I want to start by saying that, the first thing I did when I came into this, smaller environment was did an environmental scan and determined that, there was no cybersecurity program. This was 8 short weeks ago, for example. The staff are doing cybersecurity, but there's no program. And so my first, responsibility was to make that the first priority, was addressing cybersecurity. And one of the first things I did, and I don't know if everybody knows about this, but there's different ways of approaching, and there's free, there's subsidized, and then there's buying at economies of scale, right? So let me start with free. So to get things started here, the budget's really, really tight. And yes, I was working with tight budgets in public higher ed, but the economy of scale of the institutions I was leading, made up for that, right? Buying power, for example. So here at this small environment, I come in, and the first thing I did was set up something called a vulnerability scan for free from the DHS Cyber Hygiene Program is what it's called. The Department of Homeland Security stood up a cyber hygiene program in 2012. And actually, when I was a CIO at Bridgewater State University, I brought that vulnerability scanning process to Bridgewater State. And then in 2019, I brought it to UMass Boston. And now the first thing I did at NECO in the first week was sign up for that free vulnerability scanning. And the DHS Cybersecurity Scan Program it scans daily, weekly, and monthly. And they provide for free a list of all the vulnerabilities that they're able to identify from an external scan in this report. And in the report, they also tell you the CVE, and they tell you exactly how to fix the issue as well. So for $0, within the first week of me being the CIO at this small college, the college now has visibility into existing vulnerabilities. And so we were already able to remediate those vulnerabilities immediately that we found. And now we're on a cycle where we're being scanned continually now. And so that's one example of something you can do totally for free. Just look up the DHS Cyber Hygiene Program, and you can fill out a form online and get your college set up for scanning if you don't have that going on. Now, that's not enough, as you guys know, to run a cybersecurity program to do an external vulnerability scan. So the next thing I'm doing is a cybersecurity assessment. And that takes an external, party to be able to come in and do an assessment of our cybersecurity posture with the Center for Information Security top controls. And that can be expensive as well. So I'm going to talk right now about what I call subsidized. So it turns out that in Massachusetts, there's a company, a nonprofit called CyberTrust Massachusetts. And this may be in other states as well. So I'm going to speak specifically to Massachusetts, but then you want to look and see if in your state, if they have something like this. But basically, CyberTrust Massachusetts was stood up about 2.5 years ago, and they're a nonprofit. And what they're doing is they're partnering with Bridgewater State University on a cybersecurity workforce development program. So Bridgewater State University received, I think it was a $2 million federal grant and a matching state grant about 3 years ago. And they stood up a cyber range at Bridgewater State University, and they stood up a certificate program for cybersecurity and degree programs in cybersecurity, all in support of workforce development. Well, then what happened was CyberTrust Massachusetts was born and has partnered with Bridgewater State University to basically bring low-cost cybersecurity services to nonprofits and state municipalities across Massachusetts. Think of a town manager, and they're struggling to secure their networks and whatnot. Well, this nonprofit comes in and is able to do a cybersecurity assessment, and at pennies on the dollar compared to the bigger firms, right? And so I've already have a contract. They did their first assessment last week, and then we're having a network appliance brought in soon to do a scan. And like I said, this is pennies on the dollar through them. To build on that, what comes next is the managed detection and response. At a small college, we really can't afford to stand up a SIM and employ, two full-time information security analysts to run all that. Well, we're going to have to farm that out. And the bigger players that I've gotten quotes from are in the 6 figures, in 7 figures, right? Well, here, CyberTrust Massachusetts, get this, they employ 50 cybersecurity students across the state of Massachusetts. And they stood up multiple security operations centers in Western Mass, Central Mass, and Boston. And UMass Lowell just announced that they'll be coming online as a security operations center as part of CyberTrust Massachusetts. So basically, soon they'll be monitoring in real time and responding to our cybersecurity, situation here. And this is subsidized through a Massachusetts state grant. So Frank touched off on this. There is a state grant that basically will pay for the first year. So it's subsidized / free for the first year of managed detection and response. We, as representatives of our IT organizations, need to think creatively like this. We need to find free, we need to find subsidized, and then because we don't have the economy of scale opportunities that the bigger schools have. And so those are some real world examples of how I'm tackling cybersecurity in a very small environment with very short staff and trying the best that we can to leverage what's out there.
Yeah, that's something as a small institution ourselves here at Show Boston that we run into the same thing. And we are ourselves looking at a grant to get that cybersecurity. Yeah, so I'm crossing my fingers that we'll be good with that.
Well, if you don't get that grant, follow up with CyberTrust Massachusetts. I can give you the contact there as well.
Yes, please. Yeah, you and I will be chatting offline.
Yeah, what we can do, Nuno, is I can share the contact information and then you can get it out to the meetup group later, okay?
That'd be fantastic.
Sure.
Thank you, Rick.
That'd be great. Yeah. And Frank, if in your experience you've had any links that you want to share, feel free to do that, and we can share it with the group too.
Before I go into the next couple of questions, are there any questions from the attendees Does any one of you have a question that you want to ask based on what Frank or Ray has just said? No? Okay. All right, well, from my next question, actually, Ray, you had touched on that. That is, again, the free subsidy type of thing. I guess my question is, and I'll start with you, Ray, with this question, and then Frank, I'd be curious to see what your answer is going to be too, is in regards to trying to work with a budget, and to coin your phrase, Frank, it's flat. In some cases, you're even requested to reduce it the next year. So with a flatline budget, and it's been like that for a couple of years, do you end up looking to any open source programs or what I would call minuscule cost utilities to help you with your day-to-day daily activities? Whether it's a log scan or a report from Active Directory or something to that effect. Ray, anything like that do you look at?
Well, being that I've been here 8 short weeks, I've come to learn that that's the world we live in here at New England College of Optometry and IT. Lots of low-cost point solutions that have then been, kind of bolted together to solve a problem at a fraction of the cost, right? And as you were speaking, I wrote down technology review and rationalization. And so right now we're doing we're building a technology portfolio of all the technologies in play here at New England College of Optometry, and we're going to be on the lookout for overlap, because what happens over time is some people are using Notion. Some people are using Monday.com. Some people are using. So basically, I'm going to be doing an environmental scan and trying to rationalize the software. And even though they're point ones, they still add up. And so the goal is to try to figure out how much we're expending on productivity software, where there's overlap, and trying to deal with that. Because to your point, all we're used to dealing with is flat or cut budgets. Even in my 11 years before coming here, every budget I've had has been cut or flat forever. So and for those in the room here today, I'm sure you're living the same way. So my recommendation is comb through your budgets, looking for those cost savings opportunities, and get rid of technical debt that you don't need.
What about you, Frank?
So there are there are some software packages we have to live with. I need Microsoft Configuration Manager, or SCCM. I have a small Mac lab. I need Jamf. I need to purchase these things to manage those software packages. But where we did find some cost cutting was like our inventory management system. That's actually open source. We've had to protect it. It's behind all my firewalls. We still, it's a little wary. We had my cybersecurity, my virtual cybersecurity officer look at it. And that's actually another cost cutting. Rather than having a cybersecurity officer on campus, we use Compass IT Compliance as a virtual cybersecurity officer that we can also, they're available anytime that we need them. So we do look at some open source things. We do look at outsourcing some of our needs that may not be a primary need on campus that we can veer off. I have an admin, and I share that admin with my human resources team. So the cost is kind of cut in half. But whenever we can find some software that we already have, for example, people will come to me and say, do we have project management software? Unfortunately, we do not. But we have a Microsoft license. I'm not a big fan of Microsoft Project, but I tell folks, do you need anything more than Planner? Microsoft Planner is a great little Kanban board that lets you run a project. So we try to work with what we have based on what we're already spending. There are places, our dental program, our aviation program, they need to buy the software that they need. But in some places where we can save a few dollars for something internally for IT, we will. My ticketing management system, I absolutely love, Freshworks, and it is very inexpensive. So we're always shopping around.
Yeah, so in regards to technology, just supporting your departments, not just the school, but we'll just say supporting technology across campus. have you ever looked at products like PRTG for like asset management, or Nagios, or from instead of going the AI route to create these little task bots, have you looked at little utilities called like Autokey and things like that? What do you do to know that you and your staff are short number of staff members? You only have 8 hours each, and the list to get things done, especially when you got to look at security logs and stuff like that. What are you utilizing to try to get that job done in a short amount of time and the minimum amount of cost? Anything that that you can recommend for the other people on here?
Off the top of my head, I can't think about what I could recommend, but we do have automated jobs that will alert us if there's a potential breached laptop. We pay a premium for CrowdStrike Falcon, but I think the return that we get for that versus some other cybersecurity software is worth the price. We can use SCCM as a discovery tool to see what we have on the network, which we'll use often, especially if we're trying to figure out what machines may be coming to end of life, or as we all know, Microsoft Windows 10 just came end of life. I had to find all those machines to replace them. So, we're trying to use what we have, and beyond that, it's SneakerNet. Run around, visual search, see what we can do.
Okay. What about you, Ray?
I missed the question. I dropped off and had to come back in.
Oh, I apologize.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious,
Yeah.
Does your school use, again, in regards to the open source / minimal amount of cost, do you use such tools as like Nagios or, PRTG, for asset management, or or even instead of like there's PowerShell, which
Right.
we're a big user of, but then there's like Autokey, which
Right.
instead of relying on AI for purpose of creating little mini bots, you use these little scripts that can do the same job. So I'm just wondering, what do you use that you're finding good value of that you can pass on to the group?
Yeah, what I've come to learn here is that they're using Manage Engine and Kaseya to sort of glue all that together. And these are, lower cost, more affordable solutions in their space. But I have not come across, interestingly, doing the technology portfolio work, I have not come across any open source yet that's in play. Versus in this case, they're married to low cost, cheaper solutions. But I did want to say, to build on what Frank was saying about once this technology portfolio is built, I hope to share it with the college so that people, when they're looking like as a catalog of available software and technology, so that when people go to find another productivity tool, instead of going and getting another one, they can see this list, this catalog, and they can say, oh, okay, I just want to get access to Monday.com, or I want to use Notion, whatever it is that we have. So I want to make sure that the titles we do have are getting properly used.
Yes. So ourselves, we're a good fan of Manage Engine. This college itself, we use that for AD audit. We use that for manage like bulk uploads of students and stuff like that. It's a great tool, and they have I think it's up to, I want to say 100 users, but they even have a self-service help desk. And even if you do the paid one, it's relatively inexpensive. I think it's like $500 for the year, but you can do a self-service help desk. So even your remote faculty, if they had to change their password, they can do it remotely and stuff like that, and still take advantage of your MFA and stuff. So
good to know that you use Manage Engine. I'll be connecting offline to pick your brain a little bit.
So I guess the next question I have is, and I'll start with you, Ray, is as you're going into your first couple of months, I'm assuming your budget, you're going to already starting working on next year's budget. How are you addressing what's obviously going to be a necessary request? How do you explain to the administration that I understand in the past you haven't spent this money, but there's definitively a need for this? How do you go about trying to sell something to those who don't understand the technology?
I have a working example that's in process right now. And that is that in this institution, New England College of Optometry, we need an information security position. And currently that's headcount that doesn't exist. And so I'm already having to, work on justifying a new position for information security, right? And one of the interesting things I found, though, is that everybody in this college is critically aware that money is tight. And so what I'm finding interesting is anytime I bring up that we're going to add something net new, everybody puts me in line and says, you need to realize, Ray, this place doesn't have a lot of spare money. And so you're right. I'm battling the fact that they've been living this way, but then we need to move the needle, right? And so in my case, I had one of the IT staff just gave their notice. And so what I'm doing, for example, is I'm reimagining that position into an information security professional position and taking advantage of that opportunity. But I'm not just doing that. I'm lowering the salary on the position by X number of thousands of dollars and using that money to promote two of the existing staff. One's been here 25 years and one's been here 15 years. And one of the things I like to do when I come in an organization is recognize, people and have people get promotions and career growth opportunities, because then they'll work harder and smarter for you, right? And so I'm using it as a double opportunity. One, I will get an information security position out of this. And two, the existing staff are going to be more motivated to continue to lean into activities. So it's all about being as creative as possible and communicating effectively the need to the institution. One would argue information security should be the easiest one to push for, but first I have to show risk and how this will mitigate the risk. So that's kind of where my head is at.
Okay.
And James, I just want to mention Sherry has her hand. Sherry, I don't know if you want to jump in.
Yeah, thank you. One of the questions that I have for everyone relates to ticketing. And at Campbell, we've been having a conversation about combining the ticketing systems that we use for both IT and facilities. We have had for a number of years two separate systems. Some of the facilities folks that used to work in facilities joined IT when we reorged, and there's always a handoff involved in events and other kinds of work that needs to be done that involves both IT and facilities. So having a consolidated system would make sense. So the question I have for everyone is, are any of your institutions doing that? If so, are you using it? Would love to hear if Freshworks does that. Yeah, would really appreciate hearing some advice or guidance on that topic.
So if I can throw my 2 cents really quick, I would be for that as long as you can make a clean distinction between what is your IT ticket and what is your facilities ticket, because both groups will be in the same room from time to time. And I will give an example. We had a leak at the college, one of the conference rooms. The leak was from a bathroom above, pouring water onto one of my wall-mounted monitors. So I want to make sure that I can record a ticket, send someone there from my staff to remove the TV, and then say this device is broken and track it back to my inventory system and then ask for money. But I don't want that one ticket to then go to facilities. I want them to do their work separately and me to do my work separately, but be able to have insight into both of them. So as long as, and to answer Jim's question, which hopefully we'll get back to, I'm big on recording data. Data equals information. And the more information I can present to my school, my cabinet, my board of trustees, then the more informed they are and the more likely I am to get what I need. So yes, Freshworks, I think, could do that. Most ticketing systems could, but you'd have to have that hierarchy, that branch. These flow to this one place, this flows to another. You can accumulate them all for, hey, we made 1,000 tickets, but 600 were IT, 400 were facilities.
Yes.
Go ahead, Steve.
We had School Dude, Case, and some homegrown stuff and something else when we implemented Workday. We now use Freshworks. We through our Okta portal, we have, at least at the front door, it appears to the user that, if you're, we have a special ticketing system for any workday related things. We have one for facilities. We have one for IT. We also have a weird one for advancement, for things that need to go to advancement for them to keep their data worlds up to date and managed. So, but yeah, we are in the process of, we still have the legacy school dude system, which we're trying to get rid of.
As do we, which we're
Yes.
also trying to get rid of.
I'm a big fan of pull the Band-Aid off and tell everybody to shut up right now. And everybody's in the same boat. And I think we just have to, we are getting better at having that conversation about, we are spending 2 or 3x on things because this is the way we've always done it. We found out we had we use Poll Everywhere or Anywhere, and what's the other polling system? And we're paying for both. And it's like, okay, pick one. Well, we can't pick one. No, this one, no. Either we're going to pick one or we're going to get rid of both of them. And the faculty have now been told that they have to pick one or we're going to get rid of both of them. And they say, well, pay for out of our own budget. It's like, no, you're not going to be allowed to pay for out of your own budget because the CFO said no. And again, I think it requires a strong CFO. We had a meeting just this morning about they're looking through all the expenses, all the things that people are putting on their credit cards and expensing. And it's like, okay, why are we still paying for insert, software here when we have an enterprise license for it? So there's still that, sort of low hanging fruit that still is a problem when everybody can just spend their own money. Thus endeth my TED Talk.
Sherry, at our school, we actually use 2 different ticketing systems. And the reason why is the facilities group, it consists of about 8 individuals, 9 during, 1 more part-timer during the summer. And they are not tech savvy. They are tech enough that they can move the mouse, click on a icon, open it up and look for their name and know that's the ticket that they're supposed to work on for the day. For something as simple as that, literally, but it is scalable on the back end of what I can have facilities list for jobs and stuff. And that's just regular Spiceworks, which is open source. And we actually are using an old version, which is like 7 point something on a Windows 10, which will now be upgraded to Windows 11. But it works simple. They have 2 computers, they go down there, they click on it, they print out the ticket they need, and then they're good. And then for IT, we use Landsweeper, which does both help desk ticketing system, but it also, it does inventory of both hardware, software, etc. And you can create your own database reporting, using WMIC calls and stuff like that. You can get as granular as you need. So, and I want to say that from an expense standpoint, I want to say it's probably no more than $500-600 per year.
Does Landsweeper scan the network? Is that what it does?
Yep. Yeah. So you have to go in there and you have to give it, special creds for it to be able to do that. And obviously the creds that you give it, you make sure that, nothing else has access to that. Correct. Yep. So, yep.
Cool.
And
I learned something.
Yeah. And then we also use PRTG to do monitoring of the servers that need to be up all the time, like our Moodle system. We use Moodle. So we want to make sure that the HTTP call is always out there and running. So we make sure that the IS server, if it's an IS or if it's Linux, it's Apache, we look for certain services to be up and running. So we look for that. And we have a big 50-inch TV in the IT room. And literally you just create a graphical display and it just shows red, yellow, and green. And we always, that's what you're looking for. Something simple. And again, that's open source. And, there's a little bit of a learning curve, but, you spend a few hours and you're pretty good. And that's what we try to do. So, but that's, I don't know of anybody else. I'm not seeing too many other hands out there, but if anybody out there in the crowd that had add to Sherry's request, by all means, jump in. Any other questions?
I was just going to say, one of the reasons that we're probably a bit bigger than some of the institutions here, but one of the other reasons that this has come up is because we have residential students. And so the students are frustrated with how they submit tickets for facilities. And they keep asking, well, why can't it be as easy as the IT tickets? And we're like, oh, good. I'm glad we're doing a good thing. And how do we, again, back to that topic of rationalization, right? If we can use the same piece of software to do this, that's a savings and a student experience improvement. So so if anybody comes across anything, I would love to hear about it in the future.
Well, I know Freshworks will open a ticket based on an email. So you can
Mhm.
email the software and it'll create a ticket and then it'll sit in a queue till someone moves it.
That's helpful.
I saw Nuno had posted something in the chat about printing and saving money on printing, right, Nuno? And you made me think of something that I brought into Bridgewater State and UMass Boston. Probably won't have a need for it here, but if you need to print at scale, and if you're maintaining your own printers and you're doing paper cut or whatever it is, and you're billing and keeping track of all that, there's a company out there called WEPA, WEPA. It stands for We Print Anywhere, I think it is. And basically they're a turnkey operation. It's printing as a service. And the IT organization you wash your hands of it. They come in, they deploy all the printers, all multi devices, including scanners. And they charge the student. They do all the collection of all the money. And basically, you free up your IT staff. They no longer have to maintain the printers, and they provide the consumables as well. And so all we did was use student labor to, put the consumables in there. But other than that, we zeroed out our costs for printing and then didn't have to deal with it anymore. So you made me think of that,
Yeah, that
Well,
was
that leads into the another question is, in regards to staffing, how many colleges here, either Frank or you, Ray, or even Sherry, if obviously if you mention your college is a little bit larger, how many of you utilize seniors, so to speak, those near the end who've got the experience of maybe coming in and doing an internship to help offset your staffing cost? Do any of you take advantage of that? Just curious. I see
Yeah,
a bunch of heads nodding. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to go. So at UMass Boston, we did just that about 4 or 5 years ago. It's still in place today. We realized our information security, even though we had a chief information security officer and 4 full-time information security analysts, they still didn't have enough time in there, to get all the work done. So we stood up an on-campus security operations center that the information security office runs, and then they hire in, students into that. And these are students who are already in a cybersecurity program. And so then they work in there for pennies on the dollar compared to us having more headcount, right? And then they get real world experience. And then when they graduate as a graduating senior, I think just about all of them got jobs in cybersecurity because they had the background, the education, and the real world experience working in a SOC. And so I've seen it. Yeah, you can do that. You can definitely leverage your your students.
Sherry, you were nodding your head as well?
Yeah, I put in the chat that we when I arrived at Campbell 7 or 8 years ago, we didn't have any student workers, and now we have quite a large force of them because they are a wonderful addition. We use them at our help desk. We use them in our classroom technology support. Oftentimes, it's easy to send a student across campus to say, "This is the button you click," and also in our athletics media production kinds of things that we also do. We support, athletics events as well, but they've been a huge part of our ability to meet expectations as well as getting a great set of feedback from students on what their experience is like, right? They're a built-in focus group anytime we have a question.
That's a great spin on that too. Exactly. And I'm assuming Frank.
And we always, that's the thing we dangle, right? We always dangle the, yes, we'll be a reference for you. I
there you
still
go.
have people who graduated 3 years ago who reach out to me and said, would you be a reference? Yes.
And I'm assuming, Frank, with the number of campuses spread out, you probably take advantage of that as well.
So at Curry College, 90% of my staff was student. I had very few full-timers on my staff. It was almost all part-time student labor, which was fantastic. That was 20 years ago. And Sherry, to your point, they still call me for a reference every now and then. At Massasoit and here at Four Cs, it's a little different, and it might be something that other schools have because my staff is primarily union or unionized.
Mm.
There are considerations I have to make for having
Mm.
somebody else on staff and what they can do. So at Massasoit, we were looking at it, and then COVID hit. Here, we've entertained it. We just haven't found the right person. But having like, if I were to send a student worker out across campus to reboot a machine or do something, it'd have to be a consideration of who else was available and who couldn't go and what their job description was before I could send a student. So it had to be
Ah,
very
interesting.
regimented and very tight job description for that intern. And I'd have to make sure, due to union considerations, that they stuck to that job description.
Interesting. Okay. We have about 10 minutes left in the meetup. I want to again open the floor up to any additional questions to the panelists.
I put in not to put you on the spot, Tom, but I know that Tom Bernardin from UMass is doing some interesting things that might save the group some money. Tom, do you want to talk about that?
Sure. My work at UMass, I'm a senior director for research computing and emerging technology, and also the executive director of the Center for Data Science and Artificial Intelligence. And I have an interest in working on research and technology enablement for our region, especially smaller and lesser resource institutions in our region. And one example of something we've done is we've taken our Unity high performance research computing platform and tried to make that available to other schools in our region on a fee for service type model, where we provide high levels of support from sort of experts in our area. And I don't think that's why Nuno invited me, but I want to bring that up in case that's a potential interest to folks on this call. The name of that platform is Unity, and you can reach out to me or Google UMass Unity and learn more about it. We have some smaller liberal arts colleges involved, and I think that's a growing resource. In a similar vein, I'm also interested in providing AI platform tools in a similar way. We built a product we call campusgenai.org, and it's like an OpenAI ChatGPT type interface where you can interact with multiple models, not just OpenAI, but the other models in a secure environment. We're basing it off of an open source solution called LibreChat. A bunch of other schools are standing up LibreChat in their own instances. We've added some customizations. We've added an admin dashboard, and we've enhanced some of the user experience in a way that we think makes it a little bit more productive. We haven't yet, but we are happy to and plan to open source all of our own contributions. And so if people want to see what we've done, or if they have the capacity to stand up open source environments like that on their own, we'd like to be able to provide that resource to the community, and also have the community provide the resource back to the larger community in terms of fomenting an open source project. For folks who have less resources, we also are offering a service to stand it up on behalf of other schools in a dedicated AWS environment. And for that, we're charging around $3. I know the tagline says no sales pitch. It's open source, so there's no sales pitch. But if it's of interest, we're standing it up for $3.25 per user per month for institutions that may want a faster and quicker solution. We can usually get it set up in a couple of days. And if you would like to see a demo, just to see what it looks like, if you go to campusgenai.org, which I'll put in the Slack, there's a free person demo you can log in with an email. I think you get like a week free to see what it looks like. And we typically we make it so that it has your school's brand on it to create trust, and in a sense that that's an appropriate place to put to interact and put your data from your school. I'm trying to just fire hose you here quickly. At UMass, the security environment wrapped around it is currently approved for what we consider level 3 data. I forget the standard because I'm not a security professional, but it's the one that's data of medium confidentiality, from the low, medium to high. So it's not for like social security numbers, but it's for it's authorized for that one in the middle. although I think I'm trying to get it up to the level 4 blessing. And I think what's in the way isn't so much the actual controls we have in place, it's more the InfoSec blessing and business process around what we've got going. But that's a quick overview of where we're at, and I'd be happy to engage with anyone on more detail. And again, please, if what you really want is my source code and you have folks who can stand it up, I'd be more than happy to figure out a way to link you to our GitHub repo even before it's made officially a public open source project.
Great. Thank you, Tom.
Yeah, Tom, I wanted to say thank you for sharing that with the group. Having just left UMass Boston 8 weeks ago, I working with Chris Miser, I was aware of what you've been up to, and we're very interested. So I did reach out to you. I don't know if you got my email, but I'd love to have a meeting and see what might be possible, because like everybody else, we formed an AI advisory group, and we're just at the point where we want to figure out what LLMs we want to use. And this Campus Gen AI approach is novel and is very interesting.
Yep,
Love to connect with you.
It's just fallen down in my inbox. I have a deadline on Friday, which is probably why my head is down, but I'll certainly reach out. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you.
Well, whereas we're 5 minutes on to the hour, I want to say thank you to everybody for attending today's meetup. I want to say thank you to Ray and Frank for being panelists and dealing with the questions and having phenomenal answers, which now I have a bunch of stuff I got to research now. I mean, there's so much out there, and there's only so many hours in a day that you can know about the stuff. So I'm looking forward to spending my next couple of days at lunch hours looking this stuff up. With that said, again, we are a meetup group that tries to give back to the community, and the topics are usually based on what you folks give us for interest. So again, if there's something that you're interested in, let us know. With that said, though, we are going to take off November and December because we all need a break, and we've got the holidays and everyone's going to be busy. But we'll be back in January. And I think what's going to happen in January is we're going to start something new. We're going to introduce in January just a 30-minute Q&A where we'll open up the floor to any of our 700 plus members. Hopefully we'll have grown by then to 800. And we'll take 30 minutes to address a couple leading 1 or 2 questions, which hopefully will help and benefit others, whether it's a question about AI, a question about cybersecurity, whatever it could possibly be. And then hopefully in February, we'll be back to our every other month where we pick a particular topic and we have panelists discuss that. With that said, I want to say thank you again to everybody. Again, thank you, Tom, Nuno, Steve, Sherry for adding additional information, Tom for jumping in. Thank you very much, as well as all of you attendees. Thank you very, very much.
And I just want to say, Frank, Ray, I know you folks have mentioned a lot of things during this call, but if you wanted to send in any links my way that you want me to share with the group, I can absolutely do that. I'll send out a little care package along with the video recording of the call. And we should have all the resources available to anyone who'd like to use them. All right. Thank you so much for joining, everybody.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Cheers.
Cheers.